Sean Combs, also known as Diddy or P. Diddy, is currently being accused of running a criminal enterprise for the last 2 decades to facilitate bribery, sex trafficking, as well as arson, amongst other crimes. Specifically, he is currently being charged with 5 different counts in federal court in the Southern District of New York. Those 5 counts include racketeering by conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force or coercion, also 2 different counts for transportation for the purposes of prostitution. The government alleges that Combs coerced and manipulated several women into commercial sex work. While they were participating in this sex work, they were forced by drugs and coerced to be able to participate in the sex acts with other men that were involved. The indictment also alleges elaborate events that are also being known as freak-offs, where these women were filmed without their consent to perform in sexual acts with these men and also being drugged against their will. Sean Combs' federal racketeering and sex trafficking trial began on May 5th, 2025 in the city of Manhattan, New York, with the start of jury selection. Jury selection is currently slated to last for 2 weeks before the trial will begin on May 12th. Opening statements will be that day, and currently Diddy has pled not guilty to all charges involved in this particular case. There is currently no plea offer that has been extended at this particular moment, as the trial has started and will continue for several weeks. The federal system is very different than state court. In federal court, the judges are the primary people that are in charge of jury selection to ensure that the questions are asked properly. The purpose of jury selection is to find a fair and impartial jury that will not use outside biases whenever they are evaluating the evidence. Currently, 150 citizens have been called to serve jury selection in Diddy's trial. Yesterday, 19 people, part of the veneer panel, were questioned about their thoughts, their opinions, and also if any media has influenced what they believe about Diddy's case. Prior to coming down to federal court and actually participating in the jury selection, the federal system has also implemented questionnaires for the jury to fill out in advance. These jury questionnaires are also used in state court sometimes, but the main reason for why they're used in this particular case is because of the complex nature of it, as well as the high media scrutiny attached with this case. Every citizen in our country is entitled to plead not guilty and is treated as innocent before proven guilty. The reason behind this process being different than having a 1-day selection process is to ensure that Diddy in fact receives a fair trial, regardless of what has been said with him through social media as well as news outlets across the country. Not only is the judge allowed to question members of the veneer panel, the government as well as defense team are also allowed to ask questions as well. These questionnaires are a guide into how people's thoughts and opinions shape what they believe, and it also shapes if they will be able to follow the law. Here, during the jury selection, the judge will be able to explain what the law is and what elements must be met by the government. After all of the members of the veneer panel have been questioned and being able to give their thoughts and opinions about this case, that is the point in which the government as well as the defense team will begin to select who will make it on the jury panel. Opening statements are slated to start May 12th. Many trial lawyers believe that jury selection is actually the most important part of the trial, especially when you're dealing with matters that are very complex and high profile. The reason for why many trial attorneys believe that this step is the most important is because we all have a natural bias about different topics and subjects that we may have learned about and we have made informed opinions about. However, Diddy is entitled to a fair trial and is currently pled not guilty at this particular juncture. The most important thing that the defense team will be able to discuss during their voir dire portion is the video of recording artist Cassie being assaulted by P. Diddy. This video is extremely important to this trial because the judge did make a ruling last week that the government will be able to present evidence and show the video in the case in chief of this particular trial. Voir dire is extremely important to the defense team because the most important thing they need to know is how the jury will react and what do they believe about their client because of the high media coverage. Currently, there has been lots of TikTok videos as well as documentaries that have depicted Diddy in a very negative light and could potentially hurt hurt their client if those biases are taken inside of the courtroom and are used throughout the testimony that they will hear and the evidence presented by the government. Because these additional acts, like a video of P. Diddy allegedly assaulting Cassie in a hotel room, will be presented in the government's case in chief, the defense job is to ensure that their client can still have a fair trial, and these particular acts will be used in a vacuum and not to be used to find Diddy guilty of all 5 charges. Currently, several jurors have been dismissed from the panel due to admitting that they in fact do have bias against Diddy based off of the media coverage and evidence that they've already seen that has been made public. Currently, the trial is set to last for 8 weeks. The government has requested they have at least 2 weeks to present their case in chief, and the defense team as well has requested several weeks on their behalf to be able to put on a case for Diddy in this matter. Opening statements will begin on May 12th. Another important fact is that in federal court, this case will not be allowed to be recorded. The reason why is because electronic devices are prohibited in a federal courthouse. Therefore, there will not be a constant media stream or feed showing what is happening every day. However, there are allowed to have sketch artists inside of the courtroom that will depict the way the government as well as the defense team is presenting evidence. You will also see sketches of the way that Diddy looks and how his appearance has changed throughout trial. We will all be able to hear about several famous people associated with Diddy in his well-known all-white parties as well as private freak-off parties. Currently, the jury has received a list of 200 celebrities to be able to see if they know who these people are, as well as any of their thoughts and opinions about any celebrity associated with this case. Names that you might hear may include Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Dawn Richards, amongst many, many others. For instance, Dawn Richards was a member of his group that was called Dirty Money. She has currently filed a lawsuit against Diddy for mistreatment that she feels that she suffered underneath his particular hands. You may also hear about Kid Cudi, where it is alleged that Diddy blew up his car in New York City, and those particular acts are going to be used against him as proof of racketeering and conspiracy. Although there have been many celebrities that have been mentioned due to their affiliation with Diddy as this case has been pending with the court, there is not a set number or any names that have been released of who will actually testify against Diddy in this particular criminal trial. The main evidence that you should expect to see in this particular case is the testimony of the 4 victims that the government has presented as their star witnesses. 3 of those individuals' names have not been listed inside of the media. However, the main person that has been listed is Cassie Ventura. Cassie's name was made public because she actually filed a lawsuit against Diddy that alleged several acts of sex trafficking as well as violence against her throughout their on and off again relationship. The main piece of evidence that will come in through Cassie Ventura's testimony is the surveillance video from the hotel room that is seen to depict Diddy assaulting Cassie. The defense team has already put out their defense that this video has been manipulated and that there is more to the story than what the eyes can be able to see throughout this particular video. These pieces of evidence, as well as the contents of Diddy's home after the FBI received a search warrant to be able to search, will also come into play. Things that would come into play are any additional videos or recording that could potentially show that people were being drugged, that were being sexually coerced to work against their will, or being forced to do any sexual acts that they did not consent to. Diddy's defense will be that all of these sexual acts were in fact consensual. Diddy is a person that is known to have an alternative lifestyle, and even though everyone may not understand his lifestyle as a potential swinger or a person that has multiple sex partners, morality is not what the question is. What the defense will be is that these acts, regardless of how we feel about them, were consensual, and just because you may not agree does not make it criminal. During this trial, you will also see that the defense team will attack the credibility of each witness that is involved. The way they will attack it is to show that Diddy has offered his services, he has offered money, he has been in a relationship with several of the victims, and that they are now using their consensual relationship and making it coercive to be able to gain more money and more notoriety off of their client. As we all know, Diddy has been an icon in pop culture for at least 30 years. He has several businesses and access to lots lots of money. And also, he has those celebrity connections that many of the victims may need to move their career forward. You should expect to see that the defense team will in fact show and paint a different picture of Diddy to show the person that has helped multiple people start their careers. You will see them discuss how he is giving people money, he has helped their families. The defense will be that each of the victims have been using Diddy for financial gain, and once the financial gain stopped, that is now why they are saying that the sex acts that they participated in were in fact consensual and not coerced. The defense team will also challenge the authenticity of the video that was depicted between Diddy as well as Cassie at the hotel. The way that they will depict this video is that it will be a domestic dispute between two partners in a toxic relationship. They will make sure that the jury understands that this is an isolated incident that should not be weighed against their client's character or any type of guilt associated with the racketeering charge as well as the sex trafficking and prostitution charges alleged in the particular indictment. Overall, the defense team will undermine what the government's position is about their client and make sure that it is clear that just because his lifestyle may not be what is the societal norm, that it is in fact not a criminal offense of the things that he was participating in. In this particular case, Diddy was offered a plea deal. However, he rejected that as he is very confident in the defense that will be presented in the upcoming weeks. The reason why this is a federal case and not a state matter is because they are alleging a criminal enterprise was used to conceal, bribe, and to create more coercion with victims associated with this case. Whenever you have a federal case, there typically is going to be the movement amongst state to state. What you will hear is that the sex trafficking and the commercial work of the sex work has been done in multiple states, including Florida, New York, as well as California. Whenever there is a criminal enterprise or a criminal matter that extends beyond state lines, the federal government has jurisdiction to pick up the case. Here we have 2 counts that are associated with the transportation of people for the purposes of prostitution. Whenever you transport a person across state lines for illegal activity, the federal government will be able to have jurisdiction to investigate you as well as to prosecute you on a higher level. Here, the racketeering charge is the most important as P. Diddy is looking at life in prison if he is convicted of that particular count. What they will use to show is that the criminal enterprise that was used to be able to send money, to be able to transport people, as well as to use employees to run a pervasive scheme of intimidating witnesses as well as creating new offenses will show that this particular offense went well outside of the New York City guidelines. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below or reach out to Varghese Summersett.